concerning our wrestling, giving all praises to Yahawah, bahasham Yahawashi, bahasham Rakha Kwadash, double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well, enabling the word and doctrine, shalom and peace. May that be to the elect of the nation of Israel. Concerning our wrestling, because we're not shooting for the double, physically. We're shooting for the double on these demons, man. It's spiritual warfare. So let's read 2 Corinthians 10 and start at 3. For though we walk after the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. I think that word for war is to do with strategy, being strategic. On the right hand side, and bear with my internet, Salakia. War, there you have it. Let's hear him say it. Our friend.
Strong's G 4754. Stratuo.
Stratuo, which is where you get the term strategy. Strategic is dealing with warfare, military matters, affairs. It says make a military expedition to lead soldiers to war, to battle, spoken of a commander, to do military duty, be on active service. You got J, I'm active. Right, well, what are you active on? Are you on active service? Serving the Lord? Because only Israelites that pertains to. If you read Romans 9, it says to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants, etc. And it ends with what? The service of God, the service of Yahawah, bahasham Yahawashi. Right, so you can have ministers. He is a minister of the Lord, so he's indirectly serving the Lord. But through the laws, the sacrificial, in terms of Levitical, all of that, that was dealing with who? Jake, Israelites. So it says be on active service to be a soldier. Sorry, be a soldier, and then it says to fight. Right, so we do fight, but not carnally. So it says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through Yahawah, bahasham Yahawashi, to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of Yahawah, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Hamashiach. So primarily, where does it start? It starts with us. That's the main one. Warring your flesh. That's the main one, man. Alright, and this is all prophetic, because then cometh the end, and one will get changed. So all these, it might go into a different topic, but it ultimately will all link back to prophecy. Because why are we teaching? We're teaching because we're not in yet the new covenant. And we're sort of in an intermission period, if you like. Right, when we're in the new covenant, the fulfillment of that will be our new bodies. You won't be able to sin. They say it's all perfect. We're battling against this flesh now, but for prophecy's sake, there won't be any of this old flesh, this dirty, corruptible bodies. We're not going to have them forever, so it's perfect. Although it's annoying, it's frustrating, it's disgusting to be dwelling in them, the fact they'll get done away with, that should give us hope. So Ephesians 6 and 12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Now what's this word for wrestle? This word for wrestle, Pele.
Strong's G 3823. Pale.
It says wrestling, a contest between two, in which each endeavors to throw the other, and which is decided when the victor is able to hold his opponent down with his hand upon his neck. Yeah, man. So if it's a physical one, we know one was stronger than the other. One was blessed with certain tools and implements to really help them. So a physical playing field is not for we. Right, that stadium is not for we. It says the term is transferred to the Christian's struggle with the power of evil. Right, so the believer in Yahawashi, the Israelite believer in Yahawashi's struggle with the power of evil. Now I've read that. What was I going to say? It's also a spectacle when we search it up. So Paul, he was among, when he's writing to Ephesians, it's to them who in Ephesus. Where's Ephesus? Google it. So there's going to be certain worldly examples. Like we'll use it. You listen to our videos, and we'll be using an example of something in the world. The application, perfect example that I can think of is Luke 19, where it talks about making money by trading. So you might use the worldly example. If you know someone used to be in, or someone is involved in that trading of contraband, you'll break it down to him like, all right, so you get that bit, you put it into smaller segments, and then you distribute it like that. That's the same way you're doing it in wickedness, which will get you killed. Yeah, you meant to do it on the right hand side, and this is the righteous way to do it. They'll be like, oh, okay. If it's the will of the Lord, they'll put that shit aside, and they'll pick up the true plow. What's it called? Plowshare. And no man putting his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom. So this is 1 Corinthians 4:9. For I think that Yahawah hath set forth us the apostles last, as it were appointed to death, for we made a spectacle unto the world, unto angels, unto men. And you go into this word for spectacle, it goes back to theatre. Right, theatron. Let's just check the pronunciation.
Strong's G 2302. Theatron. Theatron.
Theatron. Right, a theatre, a place in which games and dramatic spectacles are exhibited and public assemblies held. For the Greeks used the theatre also as a forum. And we know, if you're somewhat adept in the Gentiles issue and breakdown and so-called controversy, which is not controversial to us, but that so-called controversy, the Greeks, why were they Greeks? Because they were still under Hellenization. Now, after Alexander, he had 4 generals come up: Ptolemy, Seleucus, Cassander, Antigonus, and who else? Who did I say? Anyway, there's 4, but there's 5. Yeah, there's a war. What's that? The War of the Diadochi, or the Diadochi, something like that. And it goes into after that. But anyway, he had 4 generals that came up. They were given certain realms. There's someone given, like, stretching forth to Elam. Ptolemy was over Egypt. What did I say? Cassander, Antigonus, Seleucus. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's not the main point. But after that, all these nations then made the customs, or were made to have, at least there was influence, really with Antiochus, Epiphanes. That's where the apex, the height of it, the peak, that's when that was. But up until that, you still had the Greekish influence. So just because we're reading about theatron doesn't mean after whatever BC, it didn't just cease. It continued. That's why there's neither Jew nor Greek. Why is Paul talking about Greek when they're under the Roman captivity? All right, because Israelites were still doing Greekish fashions, Greekish ting and ting. Okay, so he would use an example of a theatron, or use the word, and apply it at the wrestling. There would be wrestling games, the Greekish fashions. Jake was still about that. Jake would probably set up his own league to do that, if he had that liberty. Anyway, so it says a theatre, a place which games and dramatic spectacles are exhibited and public assemblies held. For the Greeks used the theatre also as a forum, a public show, metaph, a man who is exhibited to be gazed at and made sport of. So we're meant to be that on the right hand side, how these Jakes on the left hand side will be topless. They'll be on the tip-top condition, they'll oil themselves up, and we're meant to be sharp with it. So when you're set forth, you're sent forth, which is what apostle means. And that's all apostle means, but we don't apply it to ourselves outside of the 4. I'm talking about if you're subject to the order of GMS, Great Millstone. But, we've all been set forth in that manner if we're teaching. So we're meant to be sharp with it, man. And the point of that was to demonstrate the certain words used, like Pele, that was talking about wrestling. So yeah, or you might even get into the grappling thing, on your downtime, in your secular, using the world, not abusing it. As Paul said, bodily exercise doth profit little, but godliness is profitable unto all things. Right, so you're not going off if you go to a grappling class. But then if you go out on the street and try and use it, I can't wait for someone to pull up on me, man. That's off. You understand? The wrestling we're doing is spiritual. And you should always be doing whatever you can do to minimize any physical altercations. Like it says, a soft answer turneth away wrath. Or you can blow on a spark and make the fire big, or you can spit on it and put it out altogether. That's all from one thing. It's all from the organ, that mouth. All right, Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And it's all around us, man. So that's the true battle. Really, it's easy to get into a physical altercation, but to avoid them and to keep it spiritual, that's a harder task to do, especially in this flesh. We'll get into Romans to whatever it is, 7. Then I'll have to head Audi. Romans 7 and 18. If I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing, for to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good I find not. Alright, so even Paul, he was a top guy, right? A top prophet, a top apostle. Yeah, he magnified his office even unto the Gentiles. Again, that Gentiles controversy, so called. Right, even Paul was saying in his flesh there's nothing good. He wasn't glorying, oh well, I'm so black, I got mistaken for an Egyptian. Yeah, even that, it's not about that. It don't matter if you've got anti-gravitational hair, none of that. And it doesn't make you. You can still be a tear. Yeah, you can still be a tear, and you could have it the generation after Judah, right? So say, let me think of how to articulate this. You could have thousands of years so-called Negro forefathers, but you've got one so-called, Caucasian forefather that's on your, is your paternal lineage. Then you're not a Jake, unless that Caucasian so-called is a Jake, of course. But generally, you can't trust in the flesh, and you might be in an area where Jake is, but his sheep hear his voice, so it's not going to be that you're gonna, because otherwise, you don't know. Otherwise, the most blue, black, purple Hamite is a Jake now, or the most albinistic looking Jake. They can't be a Jake because of how they look, which is folly. And all of that, the flesh, profit of nothing, man. It's the spirit that quickeneth. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life, man. So we'll call it there. I pray it was edifying. On to the next one, Lord willing, giving all praises to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham Rachak Wadash. Our wrestle concerning our wrestling. Shalom.